Hello, sparrows. So it's May the 8th, and it tried to snow today. It did snow a tiny bit today. Can you believe that? What is going on? What's going on? So I had a request to try to be a polar bear walrus. A polar bear walrus. A polar bear walrus. So this is half of it. I have rejected half of it because it was getting to be such a large costume I couldn't actually fit it in front of the screen. So, welcome to the nest where I will read the next chapter of Pippi as a polar bear walrus inspired costume. So here are my ears, which are just like bunches of my hair. So if you have hair long enough, you can give yourself ears. They're not the best ears. They're a bit floppy, but they are ears nonetheless. I have a big kind of polar bear, sort of bearish costume. This was from my son and Josh and Kaylin's costume. And I don't know why I'm telling you that. This is the bear part that's a little bit polar bearish. We need a nose, right? So let's see if I can do my magic mirror. Okay, magic mirror. Okay, bear nose I think goes like across like that, and then like a triangle, I think, kind of like that, and just color it in. There we are. Just quickly, this is eyeliner, but you might be able to use a crayon. Does that sort of look bearish? And then these for the whiskers. There we are. Alrighty. Thank you, magic mirror. Oh yeah, starting to look very polar bearish. Okay, and okay, tusks. So Jake, my son, said, how about some newspaper tusks? What a fantastic idea. Wait a second, we need some polar bear earrings. So newspaper is fantastic for making, I don't need these, they're too clunky and you can't see them. Newspaper is fantastic for making hats, lining your rabbit cages, reading, obviously, lighting fires, and basically folding things. So thank you, Jake, for your idea. What about... Oh, kind of. Okay, so I just folded them up into like cones, and now I'm just going to masking tape them onto my chin for tusks. So I'm going to be, I think masking tape is going to work. Let's try again. Don't worry, it's just masking tape. Might be a bit gluey. That works. Oh, don't get your hair in it. There. I will get to the story. Okay, there we are. One tusk. Oh, yes. We're looking walrus-ish. Walrus-ish. Okay, and then this is going to go here. I can't see. I'm just doing it in the camera. How's that? Okay. It's okay that it comes off. Masking tape is great. Mind your hair. There you go. There we are. Tusks. Great. And they kind of move when I talk. I'm going to put another piece here. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Walrus. Polar bear. What else? I think we need a themed headdress to go with. I'm going to get my ears in there. Okay, there we are. Now, this is so that it feels like I'm really in the Arctic. Okay, here we are. Because, did you know that penguins and polar bears don't live in the same place? Did you know that? So, polar bears only live in the Arctic at the top of the world, and penguins live in the Antarctic in the bottom of the world, and they never meet. A polar bear and a penguin will never meet each other. They maybe don't even know that each other exists. I don't know. I've never met one to ask. Anyway, that's today's information. There are my ears sticking up. There we are. Okay, great. My mitts. These are my paws. These are my polar bear paws. All right, fantastic. Okay, anything else? Well, that was remarkably quick. I thought that was going to take ages. Okay, here we are. Polar bear, walrus in May because it tried to snow. There we are. Welcome back to the nest. Excuse if my tape gets a bit wobbly. It's really lovely to see you. Are you feeling hugged? Oh, let me give you a little, have a polar bear walrus hug. There we are. And hug yourself. Nice. Okay, let's blow our wishes. Take a breath and think of all the people around the world who probably would like some extra hugs and love today for any reason whatsoever. Are you ready? Let's blow them. Away they go, wherever they need to go. Thank you for that. And now we have our tea. This is going to be our tundra tea. Tundra is like a bleak area of the world in which not much vegetation grows. So let's call this tundra tea. And because we are a polar bear it's hard to say, polar bear walrus tea, we should have some icicles, beautiful rainbow crystal icicles, not just the regular kind. I think we should have the powder of a narwhal sneeze. So we'll have some narwhal sneeze, and we'll have some pardon, what was that? Some blizzard blast. Oh, where is my blizzard blast? 1 second. Stirred with blizzard blast and a drop of a snowflake tip. And here is your tundra tea. Cheers. That's for you. Oh, I can't reach because my tusks are in the way. And a little stir with my little tusk there. Cheers. A little tusk stir. Makes the world of difference. Oh, that was so good. That's our tundra tea. And my reading glasses. Where should we put those today? Put those up by my ears. How about that? Does that work? There we are. I still haven't, I think I forgot to wear these last time. Anyway, there we are. Okay, are you sitting comfortably? Are you in your comfy spot? Are your tusks in a good place? You're not poking somebody in the ear with one? Okay, off we go. This might start slipping, but that's okay. 1 second. Let's just put this little snowflake where it needs to go, shall we? Oh, yes. There we are. Okay. Woo. There we are. Okay, where was Pippi last time? Pippi was, oh, yes. Pippi was at the tea party, wasn't she? At Tommy and Annika's house. Pippi was at the tea party, and she really made a big fiasco out of the tea party. She poured sugar all over the floor and then tried to walk in it in bare feet because it made such a nice sound, and she caused a fiasco. So she was right. Tea parties were difficult for her. So let's see where Pippi's going to go now. Okay, so One Sunday afternoon, Pippi sat wondering what to do. Tommy and Annika had gone to another tea party with her mother and father. It's a lot of tea parties that go on there. So she knew that she couldn't expect a visit from them. And the day had been filled with pleasant tasks. She had gotten up early and served Mr. Nielsen fruit juice and buns in bed. He looked so sweet sitting there in his light blue nightshirt, holding the glass in both hands. Then she had fed and groomed the horse, the porch horse, and told him a long story of her adventures at sea with her dear papa. And next, she had gone into the parlor and painted a large picture on the wallpaper. And the picture was a lady in a red dress and a black hat. And in one hand she held a yellow flower, and in the other hand she held a dead rat. Okay, let me just say that one time more. So in one hand the lady held a yellow flower, and in the other hand a dead rat. That Pippi. Pippi thought it was a very beautiful picture. She thought it dressed up the whole room. And then she had sat down in front of her treasure chest and looked at all of her birds' eggs and shells and thought about the wonderful places where she and her father had collected them. And then she had tried to teach Mr. Nielsen to dance the skotste. I cannot speak Swedish. Skotske. If you speak Swedish, that is a special type of dance, and I don't know how to say that. But she tried to teach Mr. Nielsen a special dance. And for a while, she thought of trying to teach the horse the special dance, the porch horse. But instead, she had crept down into the wood box and pulled the cover down. And she had pretended she was a sardine in a sardine box. A sardine is a special type of a fish. And she so wished that Tommy and Annika were there too, for perhaps she could have taught the horse how to do a special dance, or maybe she would have found some more sardines and taught them how to dance. And now it had become a dark and gloomy afternoon, and she pressed her little nose against the window pane and looked out into the autumn day. She remembered that she hadn't been riding for a couple of days, and she decided to go all at once. That would be a lovely ending to a pleasant Sunday. And accordingly, she put on her big hat, fetched Mr. Nielsen from the corner, who sat playing marbles. She put the saddle on her horse and lifted him down off the porch onto the trailway. And off they galloped, Mr. Nielsen on Pippi and Pippi on the horse. It was quite cold and the roads were frozen, so there was a good crunchy sound as they rode along. Mr. Nielsen sat on Pippi's shoulder and tried to catch hold of some of the branches as they went by, but Pippi ran so fast that it was no use, and instead the branches kept boxing him in the ears, and he had a hard time keeping on top of Pippi's shoulders. They galloped into town, and as Pippi rode through the town, I'm losing my tusk, there we are, and as Pippi rode through the town, the people pressed anxiously against the walls and allowed her to gallop fast. Oh, no, that sounds like a racing car. She galloped past. The town had a market square, of course, and there were several charming one-story buildings and a little painted town hall. And there was a big old wretch of a building that was newly built, and Pippi didn't like it at all because it was brand new with flashy bricks And the townspeople called it a skyscraper because it was taller than any other building in the town. And on that Sunday afternoon, in that little town, which was always peaceful and always quiet, suddenly there came a loud scream and a cry. The skyscraper is burning! The skyscraper is burning! Fire! Fire! And people came running from all directions. And the fire engine came clanging down the street. The police had to hold back the crowds of people gathering in the square so that the fire engine could get through. The flames came leaping out of the windows of the skyscraper, and smoke and sparks enveloped the firemen who were courageously trying to put out the fire. The fire had started on the first floor, but was quickly spreading to the top. And in the midst of the crowd in the square sat Pippi on her horse. She looked with great interest at the fire engine and wondered if she should buy one just like it. She really liked it because it was red and because it made such a fearful noise. And as it went through the streets. Then she looked at the fire and she thought that perhaps it was fun. Strange old Pippi, until a few sparks fell on her. Pippi thought for a while and then she asked, Excuse me, she said. I can see the fire is spreading to the top of the roof and I will be able to put out that fire faster than the firemen. No, you won't, said somebody. And Pippi said, oh, yes, I will, if someone can bring me a rope. 1 second, I am going to find a rope. Aha, here we are. Here is a rope. Somebody pass Pippi a rope. I wonder what Pippi's going to do with the rope. And Pippi said, somebody shouted, what good is a little girl on a horse with a rope? And Pippi said, excuse me, but I have been around quite a bit. And what I can do with a rope, you will only have to wait and see. But I can save that burning building. There was not one single person in the crowd who thought that Pippi could do anything useful with the rope. But there she was, standing on the back of her horse with her rope, with her hands on her hips, surveying the scene. I have an idea, she said. And not far from the gable of the skyscraper grew a tall tree. The top of it was almost level with the attic window of the building. And between the tree and the window was a distance of about 3 yards. And the trunk of the tree was smooth and not even a single branch for climbing. Even Pippi would not be able to climb that section of the tree. She thought and she thought. And then she jumped off the horse and went up to the tree. She took the rope and tied it tightly to Mr. Nielsen's waistcoat. There we are. She tied it around Mr. Nielsen's waistcoat. Oh, then what did she do? And then she said, now, Mr. Nielsen, off you go. And she gave him a little pat on the head and put him on the tree trunk. He understood perfectly what he was supposed to do, and he climbed obediently up the tree trunk. And of course, in no trouble at all, he was at the top, because that's what monkeys love to do best. So the people in the square held their breath and watched Mr. Nielsen. And soon he had reached the top of the tree and hooked it around a branch at the top. See if I can do it. Just pretend Mr. Nielsen's here. Ha! There we are. The rope is in the tree. And once it was hooked around the top of the branch at the top of the tree, Pippi said, come on down, Mr. Nielsen. So he came down and he brought the other end of the rope to Pippi. So now the rope was looped around the top of the tree next to the burning building where no fireman could go. So once he was down at the bottom, Pippi said, good for you, Mr. Nielsen, good for you. You are so smart. You could be a professor at any university at any time you wish. And she gave him a great big hug. Now, what happened next? Nearby, a house was being repaired, and Pippi ran over and got a big plank of wood. She took the plank of wood in one hand and ran to the tree, grasped the rope in her free hand. There we are. She's got the rope and a piece of wood like this. Okay, now what does she do? Okay, then she braced her feet against the trunk of the tree. So she's got her feet in the air. What else do I need? Oh, my plank of wood. Oops. Okay, so now she's got her, excuse my socks. She has her big shoes on. Imagine she's got her big shoes on. So now she's against the tree trunk and she's pulling herself up. I'm losing a tusk. Hang on. She didn't have tusks to have to navigate. There you are. Okay, so I'm going to put my, there we go. I got my feet on the trunk. Here we are. There we are. So then she quickly, nimbly went up the tree trunk with her plank of wood. And the people at the bottom were astonished as they watched Pippi go up the tree with the plank of wood. Then what happened? Then when she got to the top, there was a big stout branch, and she carefully balanced out onto it. She got the plank of wood and balanced it between the branch and a windowsill that was nearby. And then she called down, bring me some water in a bucket on the end of a rope. And they tied it to the other end of the rope, and she pulled the bucket of water up from the bottom of the tree. Then she balanced, and people gasped as she stood out on the plank of wood with her big bucket of water. And she ran across the board and hopped into the window with the bucket of water as fast as anything. And she said, whew, it seems warm in here. Oh dear. Let's see what we can do about this. She got the bucket of water and she threw it into the room. And there was a big coughing going on. And all of a sudden, she noticed that there were two boys in the attic. She said, good heavens, what are you two doing in here? Come on then, I'm going to save you. And she put a boy under each arm, came out to the plank of wood, and she said, now we're going to have some fun. I'm going to save you before that fire comes up here. Now imagine this, boys. It's just like walking a tightrope. And with that, with a boy under each arm, she balanced out onto the plank of wood. And when she got to the middle of the board, she lifted one leg in the air just as she had done at the circus. The crowd below gasped. And then a little later, one of her shoes fell off down into the crowd and one lady fainted. And however, Pippi did not let that deter her. She reached the tree with a boy under each arm, and then the crowd cheered so loudly that the dark sky filled with the noise of cheering, and no one could hear the crackling of the fire down below. Meanwhile, the firemen had done a fabulous job putting out the flames, and the fire was dying down. And Pippi hauled up on the rope, fastened one end securely to a branch and tied the other end to one boy, and then she slowly lowered him down. When he was at the bottom, someone undid the rope and Pippi pulled it up, tied it to the other boy's waist, and slowly let him down. Meanwhile, down below, all of the people were waiting with a gigantic special blanket trampoline just in case anybody fell. And Pippi called down, "It's okay, they're fine. I'm extra good at tying knots from all my time out at sea with Father and the sailors." And sure enough, the boys landed safely at the bottom with hardly any worry whatsoever. In fact, they thought it was jolly fun. Then Pippi shouted down, "Please untie the rope so I can come down." So the people untied the rope. It took them quite a while because indeed Pippi had learned some very tricky knots at sea. She pulled up the rope and now it was her turn to come down. She sprang out on the board and all the people looked at her. How would Pippi get down with no one to lower her? All the people looked at her and wondered what she was going to do. She danced back and forth on the little board. Do, 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 do. She raised and lowered her arms gracefully and sang a little song. Do, 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 do. I wonder what song she sang. She sang, "The fire is burning, it's burning so bright. The flames are leaping and prancing. It's burning for me, it's burning for me. It's burning for all who are dancing." She was not a very good singer, similar to me. And as she sang, she danced more and more wildly until many of the people covered their eyes in horror, for they were sure that she was going to fall off the plank of wood with her fire dance. And then all of a sudden, she took one leap, caught the rope in the air, and shouted, "Look out!" And she came sailing down the rope as fast as a slippery snake, and kaboof, landed at the bottom with her hands on her hips. And she said, "Well done, fireman. You've put that fire out mighty well, and I have saved the boys and put the fire out in the attic with one bucket of water. What a great team we are. We may not be sailors at sea, but we sure know how to fix a thing or two on the land." And the fire chief called out, "3 cheers for Pippi Longstocking! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray!" cried all the people 3 times. But there was one person who cheered 4 times. And do you know who that person was? Pippi Longstocking herself gave herself a 4th cheer. Hooray for Pippi Longstocking! Hooray for teamwork! Hooray for saving the boys and putting out the fire! And that's where we will stop today in Polar Bear Walrus fashion. So, make sure that you remember how important teamwork is, although I wouldn't be suggesting that you put out fires. That's very, very dangerous, but you're smart enough to know that. I'm all kind of walrused out. So thank you for flying into the nest. I have no idea what Pippi will do next. Thank you for the costume ideas. I don't think I can eat my supper with tusks, but I will give them a nice big scrub with my toothbrush, and I look forward to seeing you another day. Bye, 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 bye. Big, 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 big hugs. Bye.